Welcome to Golden Bachelor. If you love celebrity news and real entertainment updates, you're in the right place. It started quietly. No flashy announcement, no dramatic social media post, just a simple revelation that slowly spread across Bachelor Nation, and once it landed, it stopped people in their tracks. Because sometimes the biggest surprises aren't about romance, they're about character. Just 1 month after stepping out of reality TV secrecy and finally sharing his relationship with Peg Munson, Mel Owens did something that completely changed the conversation around him. Something generous, something deeply personal, something no one saw coming. And suddenly, fans weren't talking about roses, rings, or reality TV drama anymore. They were talking about heart. For many viewers, Mel Owens had been a controversial figure from the start. Before audiences even saw him hand out his first rose, comments from an old interview followed him like a shadow. Words that rubbed people the wrong way. Words that felt dismissive, outdated, and hurtful to women who had waited a lifetime for love. He apologized. He owned it. But as we all know, apologies don't always erase first impressions. When the season finally aired, opinions were already divided. Some viewers were rooting for him to prove himself, others were watching closely, waiting to see if actions would match the apology. Then came the finale. Instead of a traditional proposal, Mel chose something quieter, more intentional, a promise instead of pressure, a diamond ring that said, "I'm here," without saying, "we have to rush." Some fans didn't love that choice. Others found it refreshingly honest. And right there beside him stood Peg Munson, calm, confident, smiling like someone who knew exactly what she was saying yes to. Peg didn't just accept the moment, she defended it. Over the past month, she's been doing something unexpected herself, slowly rewriting Mel Owens' public image, one post at a time, sharing playful moments, showing his humor, posting light-hearted photos that revealed a softer, warmer side of the former NFL player. And then, during a candid podcast conversation, Peg just casually dropped a detail that changed everything. Mel Owens had donated his entire Golden Bachelor salary, an estimated $100,000, to a youth football league in his hometown of Detroit. No press release, no self-promotion, no cameras rolling. Just a man quietly giving back to the place that made him who he is. Detroit isn't just a city to Mel Owens. It's history, it's childhood, it's scraped knees, early mornings, and dreams that started on worn-down football fields with big hopes and little resources. After his professional football career ended, Mel didn't disappear into nostalgia. He reinvented himself. He became a lawyer, focusing on sports injuries, helping athletes protect their futures when the game stops loving them back. So when Peg shared that he chose to give every dollar from his reality TV paycheck to kids chasing the same dreams he once had, it suddenly made sense. This wasn't about image repair. This wasn't about winning fans back. This was about legacy. Peg explained it simply, that there's so much more to Mel than people realize, that the version of him the world judged wasn't the full picture, that behind the awkward sound bites and guarded moments was someone deeply thoughtful, deeply respectful, and quietly generous. And nowhere was that more evident than in what happened behind closed doors during their overnight date. In a franchise famous for dramatic expectations, that night turned out to be nothing like people imagined. No pressure, no awkwardness, no blurred lines. Just two adults talking for hours. They talked about life, about family, about mistakes, about what love looks like later in life when you're not chasing fireworks, but peace. Peg revealed that Mel never pushed, never crossed a line, never made her feel uncomfortable or rushed. Instead, he listened, asked questions, shared stories, let silence exist without trying to fill it. And somehow, that made the connection even stronger. Peg admitted she had already decided that night would be about conversation, not chemistry.
She spoke openly about how emotional connection matters deeply to her, how clarity matters, and how protecting your heart sometimes means slowing everything down. There was humor, too, the kind that comes naturally when two people feel safe with each other, the laughter of people who aren't performing, just being. That night wasn't about fantasy, it was about reality. And maybe that's why their relationship still feels so grounded today. They aren't rushing, they aren't making big promises for show. They're learning each other slowly, intentionally, and honestly. Peg has been open about defending Mel, not because she feels obligated, but because she knows who he is when no one's watching. A man who shows up, a man who gives back, a man who chooses respect over expectations. And fans now, they're starting to notice. Online conversations have shifted. Where there was skepticism, there's curiosity. Where there was criticism, there's reconsideration. People are asking different questions now. What if Mel Owens isn't the villain some thought he was? What if he's just a flawed human who learned, grew, and
Love
chose
stories
to
later
do
in
better?
life don't always look like fairy tales. They look like honesty, like patience, like choosing kindness when no one's keeping score. Mel and Peg's story isn't loud. It's steady. And sometimes that's the most romantic kind of love there is. Because real love doesn't need an audience, and real character doesn't need applause. It just shows up, quietly, and changes lives. And in this case, it changed an entire city of young dreamers, one football field at a time. If this story surprised you, if it made you smile, or if it made you see this couple a little differently, stay curious, stay open-hearted, and remember, sometimes the most powerful gestures happen when no one is looking. What makes this story linger isn't just the donation, it's the contrast. A man once written off by headlines, now quietly rewriting his story through actions instead of explanations. Mel Owens didn't suddenly become someone new. He simply let people see who he'd been all along. Peg often jokes about how different Mel is off camera. She describes him as someone who still carries himself like a firefighter, calm in chaos, steady under pressure, and surprisingly playful when you least expect it. She laughs about his old-school habits, how he double-checks doors, how he still wakes up early even when he doesn't have to, how he insists on holding the door, not because it's expected, but because it feels natural to him. And then there's his humor, dry, slightly awkward, and perfectly timed, the kind that sneaks up on you and makes you laugh harder because you didn't see it coming. Peg says that's when she realized something important. This wasn't a man chasing attention. This was a man comfortable in his own skin. Their relationship didn't explode into fireworks. It unfolded like a slow song. Morning phone calls instead of late-night drama. Long conversations instead of loud declarations. Comfortable silences instead of constant reassurance. And maybe that's why it feels different. Mel has lived many lives already. Athlete, public figure, first responder, attorney. He's experienced applause, pressure, and loss. He knows what it's like when the crowd cheers and when it disappears. That kind of life teaches you what actually matters. Peg, too, comes with her own wisdom. She's not looking to be rescued or dazzled. She knows herself. She knows her worth. And she knows that love later in life isn't about being chosen. It's about choosing each other every day. Together, they don't feel like a reality TV couple. They feel like real people who accidentally found love under bright lights and then chose to protect it in the quiet. Fans have started noticing the shift. Instead of debating rings, people are talking about respect. Instead of arguing timelines, they're talking about intention. Instead of questioning motives, they're admiring patience. Even those who were skeptical admit something about Mel feels different now. Maybe it's the way Peg speaks about him, not defensively, but confidently. And maybe it's the way he stays mostly quiet, while his actions speak louder than words. And maybe it's that Detroit gesture that keeps echoing. Because giving back like that isn't performative, it's personal.
Those kids won't remember a reality TV finale, but they'll remember the equipment, the opportunities, the belief that someone who made it still cared enough to come back. Mel didn't just donate money, he donated hope. And Peg, she didn't just fall for a man, she stood beside his values. There's a moment she describes where they were sitting together, doing absolutely nothing special. No cameras, no scripts, no expectations. And she thought, this is it. This is what I was waiting for. Not excitement that burns fast, but connection that lasts. That's the kind of love you don't rush. That's the kind of love you protect. They both know the world is watching. They just don't let it lead. And maybe that's the biggest surprise of all. In a world that expects big gestures, loud romance, and instant answers, Mel Owens and Peg Munson chose something radical. They chose sincerity. They chose kindness. They chose time. And sometimes that choice says more than any proposal ever could. Because love doesn't always arrive with fireworks. Sometimes it arrives quietly, sits beside you, and feels like home. Thanks for watching Golden Bachelor. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for the next big story.